Hi guys, Colin here at the Deep Tissue Massage Center to talk to you more about walking, and in this case, we're going to be talking about the length of your stride. If you start to shorten up your stride, that actually is the kiss of death for the flexibility of your body. We spend a lot of time sitting, we spend a lot of time sleeping, but the rest of the time we're walking around and we're on our feet. We got the weight on our feet, and if you're not moving properly and getting the amount of muscle activation and stretch and mobilization that's supposed to happen with normal walking, what happens is that your body tends to tighten down and you lose that flexibility. So I get a lot of people in my practice that literally will walk like this. Now this person typically has learned to not move their upper body. There's no rotation or twisting going on in their upper body. Everything's happening from the waist down, and everything has to do with lifting and placing the foot down. A lot of times these are people that have had falls, or they feel a little bit unsafe as far as their balance is concerned. So they tend to narrow that stride. The problem with bringing that stride closer, like I said, is you're going to lose a ton of flexibility and you're going to lose a ton of muscle strength, and you're also not going to be stretching out certain muscle groups that are supposed to naturally stretch and have this transfer of weight from one foot to the other the way it's meant to happen. So here's what I'm going to have you practice. We're going to take this in different stages. The first stage is to get you to have a wider stance. So what I'm going to have you do is I'm going to have you put your feet first shoulder width apart, and then bring them about half again out from that. So almost like a shoulder width and a half apart. You can start with just shoulder width if you're more comfortable with that. From this position, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to come up on the balls of my feet and I'm going to turn my body facing a particular direction so that this is more like a normal walking, a normal gait. So this is about the length of for me, to have a good stride. Now, one of the things that happens with a good stride is that you stretch out the muscles through the front of the back leg and the hip flexors in through this back leg as well. So all the muscles in through here that help you lift your leg up. Now the way to test this, to find out if you're at a stride where you're actually doing this, is to put weight onto that front foot and slowly start to put more and more weight onto that as you bend your knee and let your knee come over your toes. If I'm facing straight forward here, and I'm letting my heel be on the ground with my back leg, I should start to feel stretching happening through here. So that's one thing that happens when you have a normal stride length, is you get stretching in through the front. Now there's a second part that's really important, is that you're pushing off the ball of the back foot. The reason for this is that ball is like a neurological switch that tells all these muscles in through this back line here, your calves, your hamstrings, and your glutes to fire so that they can continue to be strong and fire correctly. When you start to lose that, you start to lose balance and strength in a lot of different activities, because this gluteus maximus, remember, is the strongest muscle in the body. So we want to incorporate it. When I push off that back foot and I come up on the ball of my foot, now I'm creating forward momentum for walking. So I no longer have to lift in place. Now what happens is, as I push off, now my weight goes onto this right leg as I swing this leg through. That's why people that specialize in what's called gait mechanics, or the mechanics of walking, call this the swing phase. It's not called the lift phase, it's called the swing phase. So if you're lifting your leg and placing it down gingerly, you're not swinging, which means you're not using the correct muscles and not getting the flexibility of that process. So once again, I take this stance like so, and I want you to practice now just coming up onto the ball of the back foot with your hips and shoulders square facing straight ahead. As you come up onto the ball of the back foot, practice squeezing this big gluteus maximus muscle. Now this takes a little bit of effort because it's something that people aren't used to firing. So I want you to get used to the sense of what it feels like when it's squeezing. And when you squeeze that, you'll also feel more of a stretch, if you're doing it correctly, in through the front of the thigh here and the hip flexors. So back and forth like this, you do this about 10 times on one side, 10 times on the other. What we're doing is we're breaking down the walking cycle into its important components so that you can start to get a sense of what it's like when the right muscles are firing and you're getting the flexibility that you're supposed to. So the next thing I'm going to have you do from there is we're going to face this other problem that tends to cause people to take a more short or narrow actual step. And what that is that a lot of people that take more ginger steps like this, they're having either balance problems or they've had some sort of a fall and they're afraid of falling again. So what I would suggest is that you get into this position and you're going to come up on the ball of the back foot And then you're going to rock back onto the heel of the back foot, and as you do, you're going to bring your front toes up from that front foot. So you're on the heel of the front foot and heel of the back, flat of the back foot. From here, I'm going to put the front foot down and come up on the ball of that back foot again, squeeze those glutes, and let that drop. And I'm going to do this back and forth. Now, the reason for this is that I want you to get a sense of when you're taking a longer stride, what it feels like to have balance in that stride. Because if you don't have a good sense of balance and the points that you're actually making contact with the ground, if you're not aware of them and feel familiar with them and comfortable with them, you're going to tend to modify and shorten that stride. So you're just going to go back and forth like this. So now we're still squeezing the glute at the very top when the heel comes off the ground and come up on the ball of the back foot. But the thing I'm adding now is now rocking onto that back foot. So now we've got a whole part of this stepping where you learn to transfer weight from the back foot to the front foot. And the more comfortable you get with this, and you want to practice this on both sides, the more comfortable you get with this, the easier it's going to be to feel like you're well balanced and to get the stretching through the front, the firing through the rear, the shifting of weight. And so all your muscles through the lower body are now doing their job appropriately. I'm going to do another video for what the upper body is doing while this is going on as well, because I don't want to throw too much at you right now. So I would suggest practicing that on both sides. And when you go out to walk, you don't have to be incredibly aware of the way that you're walking. All I would ask is that you challenge yourself to take a little bit wider stride or longer stride than you normally would. So if you're doing this, challenge yourself to take a longer stride and to come up on the ball of the back foot. And feel how much momentum you get when you push off that back foot. It's a completely different experience than just lifting and dropping and lifting and dropping. It's the way your body was designed to function correctly, to get the right muscles firing, stretching out other muscle groups, and to keep your balance in such a way that you can take a longer stride and keep all this flexibility and mobility happening.